All right, it says we're live, so let's get our Facebook friends and family up in here before it's officially time to take off. And hopefully it's going there. Okay, there we go. Boom. It froze on my end for a second. I was like, oh, what's going on? There we go. Boom and boom. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. It is Thursday morning, the 23rd of February. This month is flying by, which means spring is right around the corner and the off season we're on the doorstep. Good morning, Scott. How are you doing? Talking a little summer planning with us right now. We're looking forward today.
Does it seem like it's gone faster this year? Just maybe because it took longer to get your coach in, and the coaching cycle is taking a little bit longer, that it feels like things are a little more rushed this year than last year. So last year it kind of felt like, okay, we're ready. Let's get to the combine. Let's get to free agency. Let's go. This year it's like, whoa, what do you mean it's already coming up? I'm not ready yet. It seems a little different this year.
It does seem a little different. I think maybe we're a little biased in that department since we took a week off this
Maybe
year to
that could
really
be it too. Yep.
charge our batteries. So it's like, oh man, we came back and here we are. But yeah, absolutely, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Fun to see Sean Payton on Twitter yesterday, kind of saying, "Hey, we actually have only 5 spots left of 16 announcements coming soon." So we're going to start to get some information today, and obviously the Broncos interview longtime Patriots defensive coach coordinator and former Detroit Lions head coach Matt Patricia. But we'll get into that. First, we want to see some say hello to some comments in here. David Yukon saying, why don't people put their name on the comments? He's talking about the anonymous poll that was collected by The Athletic. It's because these people might work with other people later on. And if you want to get their true take on things, take their name off of it. Yeah. So that's how I work a lot in participant.
Nick's freezing up on me again, but all the times, how many times do you hear, you've ever been in conversation and say, listen, you didn't hear this from me, but this is what's happening. Happens a lot in kids sports. Talking about which team are you going to? This person's leaving for that team's, and that's kids sports. It's 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds. So, this is multi-billion-dollar business. So you didn't hear this from me, but but you take that stuff with a grain of salt. If you're not willing to come out and say anything to it, then you put the weight into it that it deserves, which is however much you decide to. I don't particularly pay that much attention to it because people aren't willing to put their names to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Internet back just blips for a second. I don't know. It's been totally different here since I came back from Hawaii. Maybe my computer went.
You got a virus. You got a virus that's cycling through every 5 minutes.
DWI guys, good morning, gents in Broncos country. We got Raul coming in saying, I'm taking Vance or Rex over Matt Patricia. Yeah, how quickly do people say, hey, you know what, maybe Vance Joseph isn't so bad after the Matt Patricia linkage? I think Matt Patricia probably wouldn't be horrible either, but I don't think any of these hires are grand slam home runs at the same time.
All right, Matt Patricia, defensive coordinator, why not?
Probably why not, because he wasn't the main defensive mastermind there on that team. It's more Bill Belichick's defense and team. And that when the only sample you've had of removing him from that environment, it's been poor. So that's probably the why not, in my opinion.
When you look at, points and yards, he was top 10, there the whole time working with that defense. But he's got something to do with that, 6 or 7 years, top 10 in points allowed. It's not all Bill Belichick. I mean, someone I will use as an example, it's Kirby Smart. Kirby Smart got that rap for a long, long time working under Nick Saban. Kirby Smart was the only one that could handle working under the stress of Nick Saban for more than a year. Nick Saban would just churn through those guys, and then they'd move on, and they didn't necessarily all have the same success either. Matt Patricia's defenses, for what he had to have something to do with them over 7 years. Now, what we learned beyond there was he was not a good head coach in Detroit, and he doesn't need to have anything to do with the offense. He wasn't necessarily the offensive coordinator, but he was definitely involved with the offense. Okay, well, I don't need him on offense. He was very successful on defense. So I'm just going off of paper here. I'm looking at a resume. And I see the responses like, God, no, hell no, forget it, no way, no way, no way, no way. And I'm like, okay, what am I missing? What am I missing? Other than, y'all have heard me say a zillion times, based on the Josh McDaniels, Charlie Weiss, that's where my bias is, where I've learned is I don't want the Hall of Fame quarterback offensive coordinators coming in, but defense is a little bit different. Wouldn't you be interested in Gerard Mayo right now?
Yes.
If he was available, I don't think he is.
No.
But wouldn't you be interested in him right now, who had a similar type of resume that Patricia had 5 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really understand the backlash right now. So I'm willing to learn.
Yeah. No, it's ho-hum for me. I think he'd be fine. None of these guys really scream grand slam home run hires, but I'm willing to see how it plays out. No doubt about that. Kevin Gray, good morning. Broncos country, Nick and Scott, what's up? Not too much, just chilling. Excited for our last show of the week. We got Michael Ronquillo coming in here. Ronquillo out there in Tucson, Arizona, saying, good morning, Nick and Scott and Broncos for breakfast. Go Broncos and Buckham. Is Michael killing it on stars again?
Michael is knocking on the door of 20,000 stars. 20,000
Jesus.
stars this month. So thank you this cycle. I don't know how we if it's just the month of February, but yeah, if this isn't it, I have a feeling he'll be ahead of it by the end of the day, even when he says goodbye. So thank you very much, Michael.
That's amazing.
You're carrying us on Facebook, man. You and Phil, Miguel coming in, certainly helping us to a bunch.
Yeah, that's amazing, Michael. Thank you so much. Also, up there in the other end, the West Coast, I guess, Deanna Hendry, if Arizona's the west side of the country, out there in Alaska, $20 coming in orange. Thank you so much, Deanna. Says, I think it's smart that they are keeping it close to the vest, talking about the coaching's hires and cycles. I trust our coach. He's getting us the best staff he can to make the Broncos successful. And a lot of times, I mean, Sean Payton is established, but sometimes, it takes 2 off seasons, 3 off seasons before you really get all your guys in there. More so true for a first-time head coach, but especially, you haven't had a chance to hire every single person because there'll be turnover, and then you'll be like, okay, this guy's not working out as well. We really always had an eye on this guy. We'll bring him in here. So this is the initial coach. There'll be some that are gone a year from now, just as the reality of the coaching business, and they'll keep turning it over. But I do think that Broncos are going to have some new coaches, and we had an announcement this morning that I had pulled up on Twitter and then I closed because my internet started to chug around there.
That's okay. While you're hunting that down, the trust the coaches mantra, that always rankles me. And this, Deanna, this isn't directed towards you. This is just a different way of phrasing this. I trust the coaches to do what they think is right. I trust their coaches. I trust the coaches that they're going to put forth their best effort. I don't trust them to get it right. That's very different. That's blind faith. I don't have blind faith in coaches. I'm a cynical SOB who grew up watching Atlanta sports. They never got it right. And they're human. We second guess them all the time. But yes, we'll talk about it. I've seen some discussion here before. We're not talk radio hosts or, shock jocks who jump to conclusions based on a quarter of the information. If we don't know, we'll tell you. We'll tell you we don't know. We want to see more information. So, what did I say during the Denver Broncos? Why are you hanging, not you, Deanna, why are we hanging the Walton Penner group out to dry because they don't have a coach? Who have they missed? They haven't missed anybody. Their top targets are still out there. Give it a little time. I said, I'm not going to call it a clown show until I see the little car come up and 10 guys pop out of it with wigs and rubber noses.
Yeah.
So I'm not jumping to conclusions. Nick's not jumping to conclusions. And I do have trust. I hate that word. I do have the belief that Sean Payton is going to put together a good staff. He's had time to do that. Now it's just a matter of getting the contracts done.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have our guy talking about the coaches coming in. DWI guys, Ethan saying, what do we think about the Broncos hiring?
And he must have hit the wrong thing. So, DWI guys, I'm going to wait for him to come back to get that one because I don't know a whole lot about Kerry Colbert. And Nick hit the wrong button there.
I did hit the wrong button.
Hit the remove. I don't know a lot about him, Kerry Colbert, as wide receivers coach. I really don't. So, Ethan, you know what I had said about this with the offensive staff with Sean Payton. I want young and talent. I want young, bright up-and-comers on the offensive side of the ball. Opposite of what there was last year, where I wanted Nathaniel Hackett to hire a curmudgeon-y old dude to run the defense. I want Mike McDaniels. I want 30-year-old Mike McDaniels of the world coming in and doing this. And if that's who he has picked out as someone that fits that kind of bill, because he is the old curmudgeon-y dude now that can build, can mentor these young guys who don't necessarily have experience, but they have talent. Those are the guys I'm hoping he's going after, Ethan, and I'm hoping that Carey is one of those guys.
Yeah, first reported by Matt Zintz, senior reporter of college football. So you're getting the guy of Kerry Colbert from the college football ranks. He was the wide receiver coach at Florida from last season, and before that, he was a wide receivers coach at USC. He actually, in his playing days, had a good first season with the Panthers. Signed a 3-year, $7.2 million contract with the Broncos in 2008, but didn't do much for the Broncos after that contract. So then coached mainly USC wide receiver coach, offensive analyst, tight ends coach as well at one point. And then 2021 joined the Florida Gators. So guy, he's coached at some big college programs. First stint at the NFL as a coach here.
That's a fast track resume to a head coaching job in college football, is what that is, where he goes wide receivers coach, gets a year of college. So or in the NFL then, and then comes back to the college ranks don't be surprised if we start hearing his name in the next year as possible open as guys who could be looked at for college jobs. Appreciate the questions. Brandon Williams, following up, callback to what I was discussing about Matt Patricia. Says, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think Matt Patricia had good defenses when he was with the head coach of the Detroit Lions. No, he didn't. He didn't. But that's different. Dan Quinn didn't have good defenses in Atlanta. Dan Quinn is a good defensive coach. He was a defensive-minded head coach who the general manager basically said, okay, you can scheme your way into playing good defense. We're going to put all of our resources in offense. I don't know if that's what they did in Detroit. I don't know. But I do know that being a head coach with a bad defense doesn't necessarily mean you are a bad defensive coordinator. I've seen it happen up close and personal. So, but if that's the case, they did all this. He was running the defense. They made these first round draft picks. I don't remember the kind of effort they put into. I know Detroit was drafting wide receivers forever for a long time, and they've got a pretty good offensive line. But you can be a good defensive coach who has a bad defense, especially as a head coach, Brandon. But that's a great point. Thank you. That's why I wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, good point, Brandon. We appreciate you. Also, I saw there was a super in here from Elliot that we wanted to get to, of course, saying good morning, $5 super from Elliot. Good morning to you. Says, I can't wait to see Tim Patrick ball out this season. Also hope we re-sign Latavius Murray. You guys are probably higher on Latavius Murray than I am. I'd be fine with him being back, but I think there are 20 Latavius Murrays out there in terms of the on-the-field production and ability that you can sort through after the draft. I would look to get better than Latavius Murray early in free agency. And if you don't find the right contract out there, then I go to potentially somewhat early pick in the draft. And either way, he'd be a unique player. My biggest gripe about Latavius Murray is that he is not really a dynamic enough player as a running back option. He's very, single niche, which is fine. But if he's going to be that limited in his role, I need him also to be a special teams guy. And I don't know at this point in his career if he brings much special teams. I know people don't give a bleep about special teams. You'll hear me on here talk about special teams constantly. But if you're the third running back, you have to be able to contribute in special teams. And I think that's what he probably is for this team.
That's the point I always forget when I'm talking about Latavius Murray, Nick. And I appreciate you bringing that back up, as Colton likes to say. Came in here and says, good morning, boys. You guys compliment each other so well. Thank you, Colton. We have similar processes. I'm just old and he's young, so we bring different. We bring some different experiences here, and we're willing to listen. Again, that's the other part, is we're always willing to listen and learn, because that's the part I always forget, Nick. Because I think immediately, if I've got 3 guys, and I can probably get Latavius Murray on 1.5, absolutely. Mm-hmm. I want him there because of the experience he brings, the production he brought. He was good. He was good for the Denver Broncos. Think how much better he'd be as a power back with a better offensive line. I don't remember off the top of my head how good of a receiver he is. That comes speaking into Lawrence being one of our Facebook stars, superstars. Lawrence is concerned about the Sean Payton not using the running backs enough, and he really just looked at the rushing totals. Well, none of those guys are breaking 1,000 yards. No, but he has 2 guys that are at 900. and they both have 50 catches. So the you really have to be a good receiver out of the backfield. So Chase Edmonds can do that a little bit better. He need to come back on about a third of what he was making. I really like Latavius Murray. I like the experience he brings to the running back room. His professionalism, but the special teams thing is key, like you mentioned.
Yeah, it's got to have it out there, and that's something that when the Broncos draft some of those guys, like, okay, well, in the 5th round, 6th round, et cetera, how do they project at special teams? Because your odds of getting a plus starter at that spot, not very good, but the chance to get a big, 4-way special teams contributor, kick return, punt return, kick coverage, punt coverage, always a chance there. So Broncos got to start investing and hitting on some of those guys. Jeremy's always investing on us, saying, "Morning, boys." I like Sean Payton responding to the comments of a certain media yesterday, although I'm afraid they will congratulate themselves for that. I saw there was a little bit of a clapback going on with Eric Goodman complaining of the fan, saying that there was not Broncos have only hired 6 coaches. Sean Payton says, actually, we've hired, I think, 16 or 15 and only 5 spots left. The announcements will come soon. You don't know what you don't know.
That's not what he said. He said, we'll let you know when we're ready.
Yeah, a little bit more tone to that one.
Which is funnier. Listen, I watched this guy for years in the NFC South. He's a jerk. I've told you that. I've told you he is an arrogant jerk. He's your arrogant jerk. Mm-hmm. That's okay. You don't mind that when he's on your side. He is. He's arrogant. He's self-assured, cocky, and he's your arrogant, self-assured, cocky guy who will take shots, and you'll love him for it. Mm-hmm. You'll love him for it.
Yep. And we love everybody coming in and say hello. We'd appreciate if everybody also gave the thumbs up on the way in. Way more eyeballs than thumbs up and hearts, according to what I'm seeing here. What's up? I think we did.
And Nick's kind of freezing up here for a second, so I'll give him a second to catch his breath here. Degeneration X saying good morning, all. Nick and Scott, good morning to you as well. Thanks for coming in last night and showing some support to Luke and Thomas. Thomas if you were watching last night, Thomas got everything taken care of. Things are good. He had to pop in and out. He was running into well, I'll let him talk about it tomorrow on Friday, but everything was all good. So appreciate the support, everybody last night.
And my internet's back. So thank you so much, Degeneration X. Also, you made a big contribution yesterday, so I want to thank you again for that because we really appreciate that. Seth, good morning. We also have Scott Freetag coming in here saying, good morning, gents. Off topic. Have we secured Alex Singleton for next year? Have an awesome day, Broncos country. Broncos have not. I'll be curious to see what his market is. He was really good for the Broncos last year. If they could, copy paste Josie Jewell's contract and give that to Alex Singleton, sign me up. Any more than that, while he's very good, I think you can find what he did last year in his niche role fairly easily. Also, it really is going to depend on what type of defense you're looking to run. If one thing Alex Singleton was really good at was being in the right spot, chasing tackle, that kind of thing. But he's not really a great coverage player. If you're looking to play that linebacker in a almost an overhang slot position, chasing wide receivers or tight ends detached from the line of scrimmage, you can find better than Singleton there. If you're looking for somebody who can be a really good blitzer, a dynamic height, weight, speed guy with some power, Singleton wasn't very good at that either last season. Still, it really depends on what the defense and how much you're going to ask of your linebackers. From the baseline stuff, he was excellent. I would love to have him back on one of those contracts.
Yeah, he was just on just over $1 million last year. Double it.
Triple it.
Bring in $2 or $3 million, and we're all like, yeah, great, no problem. Now if he goes out and gets a Foye Oluokun type of contract, what did he end up getting? 10 million? Yeah, then no, I'm out on that. Yeah. Foye led the league in tackles in 2021 and got a big free agent deal from the Jacksonville Jaguars. Had a good season for him this year. Alex Singleton could be in that type of mold where he had a good season, rated much higher than Foye did on PFF. He was like a top 5 inside linebacker according to PFF. Yep. So, but we'll see. But yeah, double his money. And I don't think any of the pending free agents have signed, Nick. Not a one of them for the Denver Broncos.
No, I can't even think of any in the league itself. I haven't seen many announcements.
Yeah, there's a couple, but again, free agency doesn't open for another 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Because we have 5 days left in this one, so it's March 15th. Things will get done before then. If you have intention of keeping someone, or they have intentions of testing the market. We will know that here shortly in the next few weeks. Zach Powers coming in. He says, who's this year's offensive tackle prospect in the Abe Lucas, Spencer Brown category? It's interesting. It's a good question, Zach. Those are obviously, you've got a good memory. Those are two of the guys that I singled out the last 2 years that did really well. I thought Spencer Brown should have been a first-round pick. I was considerably higher on him than I was Abe Lucas. I liked Abe Lucas in the second and third, but I did really like Abe Lucas. So one of the guys that I am sky high on this year, he's a little light.
I know who it is. Can I guess?
Yeah, you know exactly who it is. Go ahead.
I think you're going to say Jalen Duncan.
I'm going to say Jalen Duncan out of Maryland, number 71, left tackle, weighed in about 294 pounds. If he's around in the second, take him. He was playing both sides at the Senior Bowl. I absolutely love him. So if I don't know where he's going to stack up right now on the boards, but if he's a third rounder, he's an immediate starter, and people are going to ask next year, how the hell did he fall to the third round?
Yeah, he seems to be right now projected in the third round to fourth round range. His tape at Maryland was erratic, I will say. You could see the feet are there, but his hands and his grip strength were a mess at Maryland the last couple seasons. He just kind of like
him a squidgy ball, for God's sakes.
Yeah,
it's hard to find 6'6", 290 pounds with long arms and feet like that.
Yeah, and also he does not hit the 34-inch threshold that a lot of teams have for offensive tackle. I think he was 33 and a half.
33 and a half, yeah. But he's got wide shoulders because he's got he's got a 7'7" wingspan. No, that's a 7'8" wingspan, a 6'8" wingspan.
I was going to say, what? 7?
Yeah,
That's
sorry,
right.
Sorry. An 81-inch wingspan, which is really
big.
Good. I mean, he's still getting out there.
Mm-hmm.
As far as coming around the, trying to get around the edge, you're going to have a hard time getting around the edge on this guy. Really like him.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say him. For me, I really like some of these guys later on. I knew you were going to say Jalen Duncan. I see him typically rated around the 100th to the 70th prospect, which would put him squarely in the third round. He could be an option for the Broncos there in the third round. I really like him.
Thank me later.
Yeah, he's very good. I would like Matthew Bergeron as well from Syracuse in that range, but also because Bergeron not only can play left tackle, right tackle, but I think he could be a really good guard as well. So that's a name that sticks out for me. He had some good years up there for the Syracuse Orange. So that's a name that sticks out. Talk about like a really late pick for me. Wanya Morris is one that maybe you could take in the later rounds that would interest me as well. He didn't have the best Senior Bowl, but he has the athleticism and movement that you have to survive at tackle in the league. So he's one of those rare types that you could take a shot on. And if you can develop him, maybe you have something.
I also kind of like guard, Asim Richards. He was at North Carolina, 6'4", 307 pounds, 34 and an 1/8 inch arms with an 83-inch wingspan. Every time I saw the guy, he was doing something right. Asim Richards, UNC, guard, interior lineman. I expect him to be in the third, fourth, or later. Someone else to watch, and then I'll have more. I'm starting to crank out 2 or 3 or 4 videos for my Senior Bowl stuff every day now. So make sure you're checking me out on YouTube, youtube.com/Scott Kennedy.
And one of my pet interior offensive linemen in this class, Scott and I haven't had a chance to talk about him very much yet, but I really like Braden Daniels from Utah. I think he can play 5 positions across the board. If you can take him in the 4th or 5th round, he may never be a plus starter in the league, but that versatility that you can have on the back end would be amazing. He's been a really good run blocker there for the Utes as well. So I really like Braden Daniels as your super versatile offensive lineman that you pretty much have to have a guy like that as your 6th or 7th in the league. He's going to play at some point. And if you can have that on a rookie contract, that's great. I'd much rather have that for cheap and youth than paying somebody like Graham Glasgow to do less of a job for 10 times the money.
A second contract for Dalton Reisner.
Yeah. Yep.
You could come in at about a 7th of the money. Literally. Keith Brugman coming in with some stars, keeping us in the money. Says Sean Payton tweet, 16 coaches filled with 5 to go. We'll fill you in when we're ready. That was the part I said. He was a little snarkier than Nick wanted to make it sound out. So believe in the plan, Broncos fans. Yeah. Again, we're not carnival barkers here, trying to get attention for the show, and probably to our own detriment. We should probably do more of that. But I'm not going to jump to conclusions. This is embarrassing. Only had 5 guys hired. They could have them all hired. We said that early on about the Denver Broncos hiring Sean Payton. They may already have their guy. They might already have all their guys. Let's wait and see. I'm not going to judge the results before I see the results. Come on. Anyway, it's not nearly as much fun that way, is it?
Yeah. Nope, not as nearly as fun. But we will we'll see how it plays out, no doubt. Sorry, my internet kind of going off there for a second.
Thanks,
Hopefully
Keith. I saw the shout out. Hit that subscribe button. Yeah, Nick and I do 3 shows a week on that channel also. So keep up with us on YouTube, youtube.com/Scott Kennedy.
Yeah, keep up with us. We're doing a lot of coast to coast stuff there as well. It'll be a lot of fun. We got Dom coming in saying good morning, Nick, Scott, and Broncos country. Nick better get internet provider. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's a computer or the internet, but is what it is. We have a string guy coming in and say, Scott, are you or anyone from the MHH staff going to the combine? I will not be. It used to be pretty easy for me when I lived in Iowa, and now that'd be a heck of a trek for me to get to Indy. So I don't know. I don't think anybody is.
I don't go string guy. I've gone once, and I don't go again because there's nothing I can get from that I can't get from home. With a combine, you're basically, you can see some guys moving stuff, but a combine, you can scout from a spreadsheet. It's all numbers. So I don't go to that. I go to the Senior Bowl, and I wanted to go to the Shrine Bowl. See if I can pull that off next year. I go to that because I can get video that is mine, that I have rights to, and post that stuff, and I can see these guys in person doing stuff. With combines, it's data driven, and I'm not interviewing guys, so I don't care. But no, so I don't think anybody's going this year, string guy, because this really isn't an event for what we do to be in person. We'll talk about it. We're going to learn a lot about it, but I can do that without traveling all the way into Indy.
Yeah, without a doubt. And it's always fun to, rub elbows and whatnot at that. I always enjoyed when I went, but it's pretty. It'd be
I don't rub elbows with people, so
Scott's more. This isn't real football. This is a connection. This isn't for me.
I sit up by myself with a video camera. That's what I do.
Which makes sense. You can do some good stuff there. We got our guy Keith Brugman coming in saying, if you had to choose Latavius Murray or Chase Edmonds on a restructured contract,
the same money. Who do you take? You can only have one of them. It's the same money. Which one do you want?
Chase Edmonds. I think that the receiving ability is more dynamic and more needed on this offense with the way Sean Payton is running it, and I think also for the dump offs that Russell Wilson's always kind of been a home run to check down quarterback, and you need somebody who can play beyond the check down, right? Like that's something that made Alvin Kamara incredible, and that's something the Broncos really lacked last season. Somebody who can make a first guy miss and do something in space in those passes near or behind the line of scrimmage. So Chase Edmonds, more valuable asset. For the same money, I think it'd be him.
So my initial thought is Chase Edmonds, but I was like, well, let me go and look real quick and see where Latavius Murray was as a receiver. He had 41 catches, 33, 34, 27, 26. He had 26 catches last year, so he can make a catch out of the backfield. I think body type and skill set with the wiggle, I think that fits better in the open field what Sean Payton likes to do with his running backs. I love Latavius Murray, but I do think for the same money, Chase Edmonds is probably a little bit better fit. He's significantly younger too, which is another I think. And he in his 20s, whereas Latavius Murray is just turned 33. Happy birthday, January 18th. Happy birthday to Latavius Murray. He's 33. So 1 year deal, same money, $2.5 million. I'm probably taking Chase Edmonds.
Yep. Same here. We got our guy Patrick coming in, drinking some delicious Lion coffee. Appreciate you, Patrick. He says, aloha, gents. Winning will cure a lot of ills. Don't really care who's the DC as long as they help us win. Sound like me, Patrick. I'm not going to get bent out of shape about it. And it's because none of these names really are incredible to me either. So I think I was, big on if you could bring Vic Fangio in, because I very good, or keep Ejiro Evero. Alas, neither of those worked out for the Broncos. But after that, Vance Joseph, Rex Ryan, Matt Patricia, they're all okay, but none of them are great. They're all, C plus, maybe B minus hires in my book. So it's fine. They're fine. Appreciate you, Patrick. Hope you're doing well out there. We got our guy, John Clay Evington, coming in, $5, saying, good morning, gents. Eventing. Yes, eventing, duh. Saying, good morning, gents. What are you guys' thoughts on Joe Tippmann, center from Wisconsin, and Andrew Voorhees, interior offensive line from USC? I like Joe Tippmann. He might be the best center in this class. He's probably him or John Michael Schmitz, or Schultz, John Michael Schmitz will be the best center in this class to Wisconsin, or to playing up there in almost the Great White North, right? Out there, Wisconsin and Minnesota.
Close enough. It's cold up there, but he's in Minnesota.
Yeah, John Michael Schmitz, Minnesota, Joe Tippmann, Wisconsin. If you took either of those guys in the Broncos 3rd round pick, that'd be a great get. I think both are good players, versatile scheme wise, strong at the point of attack. Would really be a strong investment on that offensive line. So I like Joe Tippmann a lot. I know that Dane Brugler has him as his number 1 center, not John Michael Schmitz, who was kind of one of the talks of the town at the Senior Bowls. So yeah,
really good. I'm a big fan of John Michael Schmitz. I'll be surprised if he's there in the 3rd.
It's possible. His tape at Minnesota was not as great, but also the scheme that they run at Minnesota is like they RPO quarterback power teams to death. So like the pure drop back kind of pass reps weren't really there. And when they were there, they didn't look great from John Michael Schmitz, but John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmitz. There we got. And Andrew Voorhees started a lot of games at USC. He's really wide. I don't think he's got a lot of twitch or movement skills or power. He's one that I think you can probably have him out there starting for a number of years, but I think he's one that he's as good of a starter as he is on his rookie contract, if that makes sense. I don't really see a lot of upside or plus ability from Andrew Voorhees at USC.
One of the interesting things about the Senior Bowl this year was a lot of the guys went through all 5 positions. They switched back and forth. So there were a lot of guys that took snaps at center this year. John Michael Schmitz was one of them. I thought he was probably the best overall. But if a guy I really liked, 6'2", 320 pounds, almost 34-inch arms at 6'2", was Emil Ekiyor from Alabama. Looked really good. Michigan had a player there. What was his name again? Michigan it wasn't Ryan Hayes. That was a big tackle. Oh, it was Olu. We had Ade, and we had Olu. So Olusegun Oluwatimi, 6'2" and 5'8", 308 pounds. He looked pretty good at center. So there will be some options at center to come in and get in the later rounds to come in and at the very least push Lloyd Cushenberry.
Yes, I'm with you. The Broncos, we've talked about it as well, though. I think the Broncos need to go out there and ideally pay a center, because centers typically take a little bit of time from college, even the good ones, from college to the next level. And we've done thank you so much, Philip. We've done the center drafting thing the last few times, and it's a slow burn for that. You need somebody immediately here that can provide instant impact for that position. I think it's probably one that you prioritize via free agency. If you can get a guard in the draft, great. And I think a lot of these centers that we talked about could also play guard, but I'm looking to pay a center if at all possible, because you want that instant gratification for the spot with Russell Wilson and Sean Payton.
I agree. I agree. If I've got a choice between getting a veteran guard or a veteran center to come in, I want the center. I want a center to come in and solidify the center of that offensive line. No pun intended, but that's why they're called a center. And the guy who's making the checks at the line, I don't know if that's what Reisner was doing, but I don't want to see Reisner looking over his shoulder. Yeah. Every freaking snap as the play clock is going down to 2-1 and he's got his head turned and he's getting blown up. I don't want to see that stuff anymore, that John Michael Schmitz anymore. I don't want to see that anymore. Can you hit it big with a Creed Humphrey as a rookie? You can. Is it rare? It is. It's a tough position in there. I mean, you're dropping a rookie in there facing some of the biggest, strongest human beings on the planet in defensive tackles and nose guards. It's a grown man's position. Philip, thank you for the super chat, my friend. Keith Brugman coming in with some stars. Thank you, Keith. He said, love to get your thoughts on Cody. And I asked some the Dove Valley Deep Divers on this. They said it is Mauk. Thoughts on Cody Mauk and possibly drafting him. Oh, he's another colorful character, that's for sure. Big redhead with hockey teeth or lack thereof. He's good. He's He's really good. I really like him. Let me check measurements real quick. You can give him I don't have an in-depth scouting report yet because I haven't cut up his tape and watched it. I just know my instant reaction to him is he's really good. He's got great feet, good push, good second level, and he's just goofy looking enough to be fun. And he loves it.
He's going to play guard at the next level. I know he played tackle at North Dakota State, but he just doesn't have
center snaps too. They all did.
Yes, he might pick some center snaps. He might play center in the league. He's one that if he is playing center, that's a very probably 2 or 3 years out yet because he did not play there. He's been taking center snaps himself working there. But as far as the mental side of the game, that would be a ways out. So at center, I think he's pure guard first 2 years in the league. Probably a left guard, but could also play right guard. He's a good athlete, good mover. He's
305 with really good second level and strong at the point of attack. So not a huge guard, but an athletic guard, and he's still plenty strong. I really like him.
And I think he's going to go before the Broncos' second round selection. I think he's going to go before the Broncos' third round selection. I think he's going to go middle of round 2. That's about the range I would expect him. If he falls to the Broncos there, then you have a pretty good guard. I will say that I don't think he's your gap scheme kind of guy. I think he's probably much better in an outside zone attack where you can use a little bit more of that ability to climb and target second level defenders in space and on the move rather than, digging guys out of the point of attack and just being overwhelmingly powerful. I don't think he has that ability. It's probably one of the reasons that he's being projected for center as well. But very good player, fun player also, and it'd be a lot of fun to have him and Quinn Miners on the same offensive line, but probably outside of the Broncos drafting range.
Here's another question from Keith real quick, because it's just kind of flowing right into the topic of conversation here, because y'all are still arguing about number 3 running backs. I'd rather talk starters right now. Latavius Murray on $1 million is good value, and he's a veteran. That's if you end up with it, you're in pretty good shape. Do you want him being your number 1? No. If he's your number 3, that's a pretty good number 3. He was a very good player for the Broncos last year for very, very little money. That's good. That's a good thing. Bigger priority in free agency, and I'm going to say or the draft, Nick, on this one. Just bigger priority in the offseason, right tackle or center. For you, what do you think?
God, we could spend a whole episode talking about the intricacies of this question. Maybe even a whole series. So right tackle is the more valuable position. You're going to have to spend more. There are less body types and athletic packages walking this earth that can play right tackle. So as far as trying to find that guy, the scarcity there is much higher. That being, and probably the expenditure because of that is much higher. That being said, we've talked about it on here a lot. If this is going to be a team that is relying on the run game, if it's going to be a team that is with Russell Wilson in this team going forward, I think that the center is probably a bigger priority. You might not spend as high of capital, whether it be a draft pick or free agency dollars, just because of the positions they're paying. But I think for this Broncos team, maybe as much as any team in the entire NFL, given where they're at right now, the interior offensive line is as important as the tackle position. The market will not say that, but for the Broncos, I think it's a possibility.
I agree. That's the thing. If we're talking about which is the more important position in general, right tackle. It's more expensive. They're going to get paid more. It's harder to find. You spend bigger draft picks on them. On this team last year, assuming you can get Cam Fleming back, center was a bigger liability on this offense for this team than right tackle was. So you have to get that. For me, that's a bigger priority. So if we're talking about the unit being only as strong as its weakest link, you were weaker in the middle than you were on the edges. I've got to fix the middle first. If I upgrade at right tackle, it doesn't do me a whole hell of a lot of good if I'm not any stronger at center and guard. So I was okay at right tackle. I was bad in the middle. So for me, and I've been preaching this for months, probably years now that we've been doing this 2 years, it's cheaper, theoretically speaking. How are we supposed to get this team better if we don't have any salary cap room and we don't have our first round draft picks? Interior line. You can find those guys in the second, third, fourth rounds. You can find those guys for $3-4 million, and this team will get dramatically better if they're just better at the point of attack, right up the gut of your offense.
Yes.
So for me, center, Keith, center is a bigger priority than right tackle. Now, if I have a first round pick, am I spending it on a center instead of an offensive tackle? No, I'm not. But that's different. That's a different discussion. This is which position will make this team better, faster? A good center. A good center will.
Yeah. So I've got probably dating back 4 months ago now. I had a long discussion, long Twitter thread, what's new, about how the Broncos on the interior offensive line, while the tackles are paid more in the league, for the Broncos, the interior is probably just as important as the tackle spot. So you can get a value return on investment overpaying for the interior offensive line in comparison to the tackle market. And Scott, you're right. You can find day 2, early day 3 interior offensive linemen every year, but you better hit because there are equal amount of misses out there as well. So it's going to come down to your evaluation. It's not really as much like tackle, where typically it becomes much more scarce further on for quality at least. But you can find quality day 2. But
yeah, and that comes down to body types.
Yes.
6'3", 300-pound guys are a dime a dozen. They really are. Even at the high school level, they're not that hard to find. 6'6" guys with 34-inch arms that have basketball feet, they're tougher to find. They're just more rare for sure. So, and they're paid like it. Again, the tackles are paid like they're more rare. You can't make it at tackle, you move into guard. If you can't make it at guard, you're out of the league.
Yeah, or you're clicking over to defensive tackle if you're a good athlete. But that's the high school level. Anyway, I digress. But did want to talk about this a little bit. So The Athletic recently had a anonymous poll where they asked 9 general managers, assistant GMs, head coaches, and assistant coaches their favorite hire this cycle. And I want to add the caveat that all of them liked all the hires for the most part. They said that this was a good hiring cycle by all teams. But I guess unfortunately, just the reality is none of these 9 people that were polled picked Sean Payton as their favorite hire this cycle. One of the general managers cheated. He split his vote in half and voted for 2 of them in the article. But 5.5 votes went for Frank Reich. 3.5 went for DeMeco Ryans. And then talking about Sean Payton, the main issue that came back with Sean Payton was that they didn't love that the Broncos had to trade draft capital to bring in a coach. I'm sorry, Scott. That's just what they said. They didn't love that.
But they're moving the goalposts.
Yes.
I watched. Sorry, I mean, and what we want to talk some of the Titans too. I see y'all asking about him. I want to get into this. Some of the Titans that were waived. But I've seen some of these guys. They rank hires because I read some of these. I'm doing some Colts research and some Broncos research, and they're not grading the hires. They're grading the teams. They're basically saying which is the best situation for this coach to go into, not which is the best coach. Those are 2 different things.
Well, the question is vague. What is your favorite hire? And that could be about the situation and the fit as well. But they did not love the process of the Broncos having to trade for a head coach, given what most teams don't. Okay, that's fine. That's one. If you like all the hires and that's the one thing that makes it you not pick Sean Payton, I understand. I get it. That's one of the reasons I wanted Jim Harbaugh more so, because he didn't have to give up a first-round pick or whatever the Broncos ended up giving up in total. But the other situation for the Broncos was that they talked about how tough it's going to be for Sean Payton to rebuild this team because a lot of them don't buy into Russell Wilson anymore. They think that he is going to be an issue in this team and that the Broncos lack the capital, no matter which direction they go, to really turn this team around. So really it is about Sean Payton, the situation. They like Sean Payton. They think he's an offensive. One of them said he's one of the best offensive minds in football as well. So again, not the biggest deal on that. But again, I just think it's interesting to talk about that and why are people doubting it? They doubt Russell Wilson and they doubt the avenues the Broncos have to add talent to this roster currently. Is it a big deal? No, I'm not trying to make it a big deal, but it is information, and I think it's interesting to talk about.
Again, and what you just said was a long way of saying what I have said, which is why I don't necessarily like the answers, the process, the conclusions. You're not grading the hire, you're grading the situation that the coach has come into. Those are very different things. The hire was a home run, an absolute home run. Are the Broncos in a good situation right now? Not really. They could be. There's some big questions, none of which have to do with Sean Payton. None. Those were all there when he was hired. It didn't matter who was hired. That's the thing. It's like, okay, well, let me flip this back on you, Nick, and you're the one that's writing this article. Who could they have hired that would have solved those problems? Except for the first round draft pick. You would have had one more pick, or you would have had a first round pick. Who could they have hired that would have solved Russell Wilson, solved the salary cap situation, solved Russell Wilson's contract? No one.
Nobody. Yeah.
Nobody.
The only thing is you'd have another first in the second round next year. But that's it. That's really it. So I agree with you. They're asking who their favorite is, and some of these guys are coming into better situations. And I got to say also, just kind of an offshoot here, but the Panthers, man, what a absolutely all-star staff they are hiring out there in Carolina around Frank Reich. They're doing a great job with that staff, bringing Ajir Evero, a bunch of, Jim Caldwell out there as well. So that's a great staff. I'm really interested to follow the Panthers next year. He got 5.5% or 5.5 of the votes. But again, you're right, Scott. They're just talking about the situation here. And what does it all come back to? Can they get Russell Wilson right? There's a lot of doubt out there. And I'm a doubter too. Some people get pretty irritated at me for doubting Russell Wilson on Twitter from time to time. But he was bad last year. And if Sean Payton can't fix him, he's probably gone after the 2023 season.
And that's the other thing. You would probably know the term. It's like when I state something that's false and then ask a question around it. How can you rebuild around? How can you be successful when you have to build around Russell Wilson? You don't. You don't. We've said it a bunch. We'll say it again. If Russell Wilson does not play better in 2023, it's done. It's one more year. You will have some salary cap troubles, but you will also have your rebuild will begin. You'll move some players whose contracts are coming up, including Courtland Sutton, Tim Patrick, Garrett Bowles. If you keep this up, his contract, all these contracts are set to be movable after 2023. You start the rebuild then with Sean Payton as your coach. Now who's the best guy to be in charge? So is it? And frankly, talking about the guys, I'm a little surprised Shane Steichen didn't get any love. I think that's a really good hire. I know that's someone that we talked about, the Denver Broncos, bringing a young guy, offensive-minded, first time, scares us a little bit, but has a track record of actually developing quarterbacks of different styles rather than just inheriting one and riding his coattails. So I like the Shane Steichen hire for the Colts as well.
And again, it comes back to the main point here. Hopefully you can hear me. It looks like I've cleared up. The main point is that all the hires were like this cycle, and it was hard to pick just once. It would have been more interesting to ask them to rank the hires. If you like them all, okay, money where your mouth is. How would you rank each of these?
Yeah.
Give us an anonymous ranking. But we'll see how it plays out. But
or you know what? You're the general manager of your team. Who would you bring in? Rank your candidates. That's really what you're asking. Again, we already know the situations of the teams. None of the teams are in great situations. That's why they are looking for new coaches. But it bothers me when they take the question is basically rank the hires and they grade the situation. Those are two very, very different things. The Denver Broncos got the best possible coach. Whether or not it turns out that way, they got the best possible coach. Now, again, there's a long way to go, but Sean Payton had the best track record, history of success, turned around a god-awful franchise. No offense, Saints fans. You know it, and became a perennial NFC power. That's not easy to do. It had never been done in New Orleans before. Sean Payton did that. Not by himself, obviously. This was the best hire you could have got. You're grading the hires, A+. Now let's grade the results down the road.
And we have Nick Lugin coming in here saying, good morning, Broncos country. Should the Broncos keep or trade Albert Okwuegbunam? Well, it's up to Sean Payton. It's his offense, his team. If he says I could use that guy, then you're going to have more value keeping him than trading him. But you're talking about trading Albert Okwuegbunam. This is like the type of move you're going to get. Albert Okwuegbunam and a 2025 7th round pick for a team's 2025 6th round pick. You are getting a little bit of value by doing so, but it's the farthest in the future in the back end of the deal. I mean, the Broncos this season, why are the Broncos missing so many picks? Well, they gave up picks trading for Stephen Weatherly 2 years ago and Jonas Griffith 2 years ago. Those like very back end of the future drafts. exchange going on. That's what you'd probably get if you did trade Albert Okwuegbunam, if there was a market for him at all. But we'll see. It's going to come down to Sean Payton. He has a niche role, and you have a better offensive mind here. Maybe you do want to see what it looks like with Sean Payton in-house, but it's the same thing we've constantly said. Albert O, big athlete, runs great in a straight line, kind of turns like a battleship, but there's still a role for somebody that big and fast in a straight line. You got to be able to block out there. You can't put in a tight end and be like, oh, they're for sure passing the ball. Then play a wide receiver, right? Like, there's no reason to play a tight end if he automatically tips your hand as a pass.
Yeah, and you want to be multiple. You hear that word a lot for coaches talk. We want to be multiple out there. Well, as Nick was saying, if you've got Alberto out there, you're not multiple. You're passing. And now I can just pin my ears back as a defensive line. Oh, I see that guy. Yeah, I'm not biting on any play action. If you think about an RPO, you're dead because I'm going to crush you. I'm not gonna buy it at all. So you can't tip your hand. You cannot tip your pitches, so to speak.
Especially the play action. We saw that a few times last year with the Broncos. They tried to run some play action, and pass rushers would go just straight around the offensive tackles.
You see 3rd and 17 and guys run a play action. I want to pull my hair out. I just want to shoot somebody. It just drives me nuts. Like, all you're doing is getting your quarterback killed. And what you're talking about is very similar. When you don't have to respect the run at all, play action is a detriment to your quarterback.
Yep. Sometimes just because it's kind of the lizard brain thing, linebackers will be like, oh, wait a second. I saw the run
reflex.
Motion.
Yeah. Just a reflex.
React to it. But
DL aren't.
No, not really. No. Ryan Thompson, good morning, fellas in Broncos country. Buckham, good to see you, Ryan. Greg Smith, top of the morning to you. Good to see you, Greg. What happened to all the emoticons? We used to get those all the time. What's going on? Where's our pancakes?
Real quick, Michael Ranchio coming in with some stars. He says, that's why I love my Huddle podcast. We're bringing great Broncos content to Broncos country. Got a good bit of numbers in here today, too. So knocking on the door, 250 watching live. Leave a comment for us afterwards. If you don't want to now, that's okay. I come back and I check all the comments afterwards. And if I see something that Nick would like. And one of the reasons I'm bringing up Michael is because Michael is now at about 25,000 stars coming in with this big one. This is I think 4th 5,000 stars plus all of the other times he comes in. Michael, thank you so much. Shoot me an email. I think we've gotten you a Broncos for Breakfast mug. If we haven't, I'm going to send you one. Shoot me an email. You can hit me up on Twitter. That would be, where to find me on there. So you can do that as well. I'm gonna send you a Broncos for Breakfast mug if we haven't already, just as a thank you for everything you've done for this show. Appreciate you. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, and this is an interesting one from Zach Powers here. Rick Spielman was on the Pro Football Focus podcast, said you get to pay 4 Pro Bowl type players on each side of the field. So it's 4 and 4, if I think I'm understanding the way this is worded correctly. What 4 positions are you paying on each side? For me, on the offensive side, I'm definitely paying, obviously, a quarterback, number 1. And then I'm paying a wide receiver, number 2. And then I'm probably paying 2 offensive linemen. So that's where I'm going on that side of the line. On the other side, Pro Bowlers, this is long-term thinking here. And this is me being, way, not inside baseball, but just way nerdy. There's been a lot of data out there that in a single great season, a unbelievably elite shutdown cornerback is more valuable than a really good pass rusher. But the year-to-year fluctuation of coverage players is much higher than that of pass rushers. So if I'm looking to pay a guy and keep him on there, I'm going to take the defensive lineman. So I'm going to take 1 interior defensive lineman, 2 edge rushers, and then 1 cornerback.
Yeah, and if I could get them, they're so rare. It's hard to tell. Nick is a problem.
Yeah,
having two cornerbacks at a Pro Bowl level is not easy. That doesn't come around very often. So if I could do that, I would. I'd go DL, DN/edge, corner. Those are hard to find. They're really, really hard to pair up like that. That's how I would do it. But I could go edge, DL.
That's what I'm doing.
You give me 4 Pro Bowl defensive linemen, I'll take it.
Yeah.
That way. That doesn't happen either. So, but yeah, I agree with Nick 100%. I would, if I could go Pro Bowl, on the offensive side of the ball, it's going to be a quarterback. It's going to be wide receiver. It's going to be left tackle. And then preference. If I had the best center in football, I might take that over a right tackle guard or another guard. If you could tell me I'd have the best center in football, I'd probably take him over a guy like Chris Lindstrom at right guard.
Yeah, and if this is just generic type of player, so like Pro Bowl is an all pro. So like you're talking about who was the last Pro Bowl tight end this year. That's not as valuable. Now, if I'm getting Travis Kelce out there or prime Rob Gronkowski, that's a completely different conversation for me. But for me, and I hear what you're saying about the 2 cornerbacks, Scott. I think that having 3 pass rushers, 2 edges.
Listen, you know me, I prefer edge to corner.
Yeah.
It's just it just doesn't happen so often that if I could go DL edge corner, you don't see that just doesn't happen. You know, I mean, how many times can you go back and think of the pair of cornerbacks the way you can wide receivers in the NFL? You know, I have to go back 40 years for me right off the top of my head was Lester Hayes and Michael Hayes, Lester and Michael Haynes, the corners for the Raiders in like 1980. That's how long it's been. I'm sure there's been some since then, but you know, it doesn't happen like thunder and lightning or Rice and Montana. You know, it just doesn't. There's just not that many of them. That it'd be very interesting to see if you had a pair of them, then maybe your coverage fluctuations wouldn't happen. Look at the Dallas Cowboys with Dion. You know, when they had Dion and they paired him with Woodson. I'm not sure, that was a safety. Either way. If you put those guys into, if you gave me 6 of them, DL, edge, corner, and I got to draw 4, I'd be happy. I'd be happy.
And we didn't say linebacker, and we did not say safety. We did not say running back, and probably not taking a guard also, even though if you can get a Pro Bowler, you get them, but there are no guarantees. John Clay Eventing saying, honestly, it seems that this coming year is going to be a wash that sets up to take a quarterback in the first of the very high pick in 24 draft. Long game. Maybe if there'll be more talent next year, I think volume wise, quantity at the quarterback position. But I don't know if the Broncos are going to be bad enough to be no doubt quarterback top of the 2024 draft. We pretty much had every bad break that you could possibly have this last season, and you still only got the 5th pick. This team is not in an active teardown right now, so I don't know. And I think if you're going to get Drake May or Caleb Williams, the top 2 quarterbacks in next year's draft, you're probably going to have to earn them versus trading up for them. Yeah. So we'll see how it plays out, but it's definitely possible this is a one and done situation for Payton and Wilson together, and then the Broncos are moving a new direction. But we got to see how it plays out first. That's in the realm of possibility, though.
Yeah, the Broncos weren't as far off as their record would indicate. I've said the same thing about the Colts, and they're closer than you think. And I'm not just saying that because we do this, because I took a look at the Falcons last year, and the Falcons were 7-10 in 2021, and they were bad. They were a bad team, and we turned around and said they were a long ways off, and they're not going to be able to keep going. They went 7-10 again, which was really good. I'm saying something different for the Broncos. They're not that far off. They're not going to be bad enough to, even in the worst case scenario, to be drafting 1 or 2 to go and get that quarterback. So we will see. Just about to get out of here, but we've got some Superfly Snuka, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Randy Macho Man Savage coming off the top rope. Super chats coming in here, including Ethan coming in. What? No linebacker or running back? Great show, gents. The country, have a great weekend. Honestly, if you had and I'm thinking we're talking about the 4 Pro Bowl players. The running back is such a team game that if I knew I was going to get Pro Bowl production, that probably means I was decent, right, Nick? How many Pro Bowl running backs are coming from bad teams? That said, you're paying your offensive lineman to make that happen. So it's kind of a fallacy there that if I got a Pro Bowl running back, it probably meant I was pretty good, but it doesn't necessarily mean I had to pay him Pro Bowl money. So if that makes any sense at all. Linebackers, you can have a guy who racks up a ton of tackles and not necessarily still be a really very good team. I've seen that a couple of years. We saw it last year with Alex Singleton. We saw it the year before with Foye Oluokun, the 2 leading tacklers in the NFL, both on losing teams. But we know what you meant, and just wanted to hit on those 2 as well, Ethan. Thank you so much. And one more, I'm going to keep talking here for just a moment. Nick, because Michael Ranchio doubled down. He came in with how many zeros is that? 10,000 stars, Michael. So we were talking he was going to come and break the neighborhood of 20,000 stars by the end of the day. He just broke 30,000 stars for the end of the day. So again, hit me up on Twitter, Michael. And I'm gonna send you, even if you want to re-gift it, because I've already sent you one, I'll send you another one. A Broncos for Breakfast mug for the support you have shown the show. And it has gotten, it's definitely gotten some people's attention. Michael says, great show today, Nick and Scott on Broncos for Breakfast. You were a big part of that today. Have a great weekend, my friend.
Thank you so much. And Ethan, also the $50 say not linebacker. Yeah, sorry, Ethan. If that linebacker is rushing the passer, then yes, but kind of an interesting trend here. We talked, this is dating back to when Scott and I were first doing the show. Micah Parsons came into the league. Oh, he's an off ball, stack linebacker, whatever. First year, I think he was about 50-50 split of his reps at the second level of the defense versus the defensive line. This year, I think he had like 150 snaps in the box as a linebacker versus, I think, 700 snaps at edge. So it's kind of like Von Miller from his first season to the second season. Like, oh, why are we not having this guy pin his ears back on every play?
Right.
That's a bad use of resources. So you're still going to have some versatility. If you can do that, it's a nice card to play every once in a while. But he's changed positions. He's an edge rusher now, essentially. Some of it's going to be a mug linebacker, two liner over the A gap. Still a pass rusher, though. So linebacker, yes, if they're getting after the passer. And we talked about it, I think, last week, the 10 non-quarterbacks you could start a league with, start a franchise with right now. Patrick Surtain made the list. So did Sauce Gardner. No offensive linemen, 4 wide receivers, and then four pass rushers. Chris Jones, probably the best interior defensive lineman right now. Nick Bosa, Myles Garrett, and Micah Parsons.
You broke up a little bit there, Nick. Would you say it was Aaron Donald? Was Aaron Donald on that list? You broke up on me just a little bit. Was Aaron Donald on there? Or is he getting a little bit too up in age? You not necessarily choose him as someone you want to start a franchise with. You're going to leave me hanging on that one.
He was not there.
Okay. Maybe that might be an age thing. If I'm starting a team, like, I've got one game to play, Aaron Donald's in my top 10 for sure. So, Ethan, thank you. I want to shout out our super chat superstars today. Ethan, as always, coming in, closing us out. The closer, John Clay eventing, Philip Hogginson. John Clay came in twice. So did Ethan. Elliot D, Deanna Hendry. Appreciate y'all coming in for sure. And then on the other side, Keith and Michael coming in, and he's like, he came in super fly and then went back to the top rope and then came in with a Chris Benoit diving headbutt. It just top rope, getting everybody's attention on YouTube too, Michael, and you've got our attention as well. So I'm going to let Nick close us out. So for now, I'm just going to say thank all of y'all. Have a tremendous weekend, everybody.
Yeah, you guys are great supporting us today. We appreciate that. Make sure you're following Scott and I on Twitter. Scott is at Scout Kennedy. I am at Nick Kendell, MHH. Also follow us at BFB_pod and at Mile High Huddle. If you haven't done so yet, go to Facebook.com. Join our Facebook groups there at Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. Click the thumbs up if you're watching on Facebook right now. We'd really appreciate that. And subscribe, like, and share over on YouTube. Click the thumbs up there. Click the bell icon that you see so that way you get notifications when we go live. And Scott and I will be back again Monday morning, 6 a.m. my time and 7 a.m. Mountain time on Scott's channel over there, Forging the Falcons, Coast to Coast Football. And then we'll be back again, Broncos for Breakfast, 7:30 Mountain time next Monday. You guys have a great weekend. Appreciate the conversations. As always, seems like we're going to get a lot of coaching announcements coming down the tracks here, according to Sean Payton. So looking forward to that. You guys have a great one. And choose kindness and compassion. Go Broncos.